Thanks so much. Namaskaram, Anna. Thank you.
Namaskaram.
So, Anna, if you wanted to give some introduction, yeah.
Namaskaram everyone. So we have our live session with Mukul Anna. Since tomorrow is Ekadashi, Mukul Anna will be giving us some tips so that we can fast a little more easily. So yes, Mukul Anna. So please, could you talk about Ekadashi and what it means
Okay.
generally?
Okay. Sure. Thanks, Anna. And we felt that since tomorrow being Ekadashi, um, there might be many of you who have not yet attempted fasting before, or who have been attempting but having some challenges. So we thought that first of all we can start by looking at that, so that you can make use of this step of making use of this Ekadashis. So I'll just start by giving an introduction of what this Ekadashi is, the significance, and how you can make use of this. So in terms of Ekadashi, many of you would have heard this from Sadhguru or watched videos or read this on the blog, that traditionally this was considered a very significant day, and people used to observe fast on this particular day, on Ekadashi. So why this was so is because just like it's important to eat consciously and to choose the right kinds of foods, it's also equally important to give your body a break, where you can stay without food, because that's also very important for the body to cleanse itself. So periodically fasting, actually, if you observe your own system, you will see that in one mandala or one cycle of 40 to 48 days, there'll be at least 3 days when your body will not require ask for food. It will, like, very easily it can manage without food. So if you can recognize those 3 days, and it's always best to not eat on those days, because forcibly eating on those days is not good. Since people lack this awareness, in the yogic system, they fixed something called as Ekadashis, which happens every 14 days. So in the lunar cycle, it happens on the 11th day of the lunar cycle. You'll see that it's Ekadashi. So every 14 days it happens, so that once in one mandala it will be 3 days Ekadashi. So every 14 days you will come across Ekadashi. So on this particular day, it was fixed that people should not eat, people should fast, and the possibility of turning inward is more on this day. So it's a very significant day, and we have been encouraging people to see if they can fast. And there have been, if not every Ekadasi, we get at least 10 people mentioning that they have never fasted before, but they tried fasting, and it was a beautiful experience for them, and they couldn't believe that they could fast. So every Ekadasi, we continuously keep getting people who share, and once people are able to do this, they feel a tremendous sense of well-being within themselves. So if you haven't taken this step already, it will be good, because tomorrow being Ekadashi, so it's a good day to get started if you haven't started already. So what you need to do is, to make use of this day is, as I said, that first of all, the fasting regularly has tremendous health benefits, and just by not eating on certain days or regularly observing Ekadashi's fast, like every Ekadashi, every 14 days, if you go without food, you will see it will make a big difference in terms of your health. And even research wise, though this was known to people on the yogic path from ages, but nowadays a lot of research has come out, especially in the Western media. They are really, there's a lot of stuff floating around about fasting and its benefits. And recently, one of the people also got a, one of the persons, I forgot his name, but he did some research on fasting, and they also won a Nobel Prize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there was so there's a lot of action going on, especially in the Western media, about fasting and intermittent fasting, and what benefits can be gained just by fasting on a regular basis. And this is like one of the uh, key words which is they are using, because they keep hanging on to words. So intermittent fasting, if you Google or something similar, there are a lot of people talking about it, because they have seen tremendous benefits which can be gained just by fasting on a regular basis. So this is something, if you're not already doing, how you can make use of this. Let's look at that. So what you need to do is, you just need to go without food for 24 hours, and which means if you have had dinner tonight. So I hope all of you have had dinner.
I had.
If you had dinner tonight, then you just have the next meal tomorrow night dinner. So basically, from tonight's dinner to tomorrow night's dinner, 24 hours gap. And this is the ideal way to fast. So where tomorrow, if you are having 3 meals a day, you skip breakfast, you skip lunch. And if you're used to having more than 3 meals, like every other opportunity is a good time to eat for you, like snacks or whatever else. So tomorrow you see if you can keep that aside, and just break your fast in the night with dinner. So for example, let's say you regularly have your dinner at 8 in the night. Then tomorrow also you can break the fast at 8, and have your dinner. And this while having dinner tomorrow, you could have something light. It's not that since you fasted for 24 hours, you eat double of what you eat normally. Okay, so you can see if you can break the fast with something light, which is easy to digest. For example, fruits or salads, and then move on to cooked food if you wish to. And even that, if you have been to the Isha Yoga Center, you'll notice the Ekadashi meal on dinner is always fixed. They have kanji, they have um, fruits, they have fruit salad, and they have a particular porridge along with that, boiled vegetables and chutney. So something which is lighter on the stomach, it's always better. But it's okay if you still wish to have whatever you have, it's fine. If you wish to refer like what you can make for Ekadashis on dinner, there's a particular article on the Isha blog. We can share it in the link as well, uh, with this video. So that's something you can refer to in terms of the Ekadasi recipes which they use in the Isha kitchen. You can do that. So 24 hours, if you can go without food, that's the best way. You can sustain with water. Water you can have how much ever you wish to. If you feel the need, you can have. That's not an issue. But other than that, it's best you can avoid having anything. For a lot of people, they think that Ekadasi means you you should eat something different other than having rice or chapati or whatever. They feel you can have other things. You can have milk, you can have whatever else, other
Ah,
products which you feel. And they I don't think they get any benefits from fasting, because they usually think that we'll eat something else. Instead of eating grains, we'll eat something else, but we'll still eat. So the idea is not about that. The idea is to go without food. And Sadhguru was mentioning this, that if you are a normal, healthy adult, then very easily the body can go without food. And 24 hours is definitely very much manageable for anybody who's having a healthy body. But if you're finding it difficult to fast, then it could indicate few things. It could either indicate some trouble with your body. Maybe you have a illness or some ailment, and because of which it's difficult for you to fast. And but for most people, it's not about the body. It's about their mind, that when they attempt to fast, that is the time when all their favorite items appears in front of their eyes, or they have bondas or vadas or whatever flying all over the place whenever they want to fast. That is what happens. So if that is the case, you should definitely attempt to fast, because this is not the time for you to uh, you know um, uh, go give into your mind. It's definitely possible for anybody to fast. So see if you can try this. Basically, if you're finding it very difficult, that you cannot manage without having just water, then you can have something like fruits instead. So as I was saying that 24 hours you can go without food. So if you've had dinner tonight, tomorrow night you can have dinner, and you can see if you can just manage with water. That's the ideal way to fast. But if it's difficult for you, if you are not able to do this, if it's difficult for you and this is something which you're trying for the first time, then what you can do is, if you are finding it difficult, you can have fruits instead. So you can have that for breakfast. Maybe you can have something like ashgard juice. Ashgard is considered as a very highly positive pranic substance. You can make juice out of it and you can have it. Or if you have sanjeevani at home, which is a mixture of different grains, you can make a porridge out of it. You can have that. Or you can have something like fruits, which is easy to digest. So you can do that and still attempt fasting. Instead of having full meals, you can have this and try to see that over a period of time, over a couple of attempts, 3 4 ekadasis, that you can even do without this, that you can just manage with water. But start with this. For those of you who find that you're getting headaches or finding it difficult, then maybe you can start with fruits and these kind of things. Instead of having full meals, you can do that for your breakfast and your lunch, and then have your dinner. So at least get started with this. You'll see it'll make a big difference. And one more thing which you can do is, you can chew on amla. Amla or gooseberry is something which helps to ward off hunger. So if you chew on amla, it kind of help you reduce your hunger, so it can help you on ekadasi if you're really struggling. But what we have seen is, if you prepare your body sufficiently enough by eating the right kinds of foods and by doing the right kind of yogic practices, then fasting is like, a cakewalk for most people. If they're doing these two things right, it becomes very easy for you to fast. And not only fasting, actually, when you fast, it doesn't mean that you sit in one place and you think that it's a time to stop all your activity because you're not eating anything. The idea about going on a fast is not only about your health, but also that it can strengthen you tremendously. So, especially for those who are on the spiritual path, if you can do this, you will see it will help you tremendously in terms of establishing your inner strength. Because if you can fast and still continue doing all the normal work which you've been doing, then you'll see it will strengthen you tremendously. So it's not a time to take a break from work or whatever activities you're doing. Yes, if you can focus more on doing your practices, spend more time on your sadhana that day, and see if you can give yourself more time, it's very good. But it's not that you should not do any activity. Doing whatever you're doing and still fasting, it will make a big difference. You'll see it'll ensure that you do not fall off at the slightest of obstacles which come. And especially on the spiritual path, this is very important, Sadhguru was saying. So fasting is a great support. So if you cannot manage without just water, then you can have fruits or something light, which is easy to digest, like ashgard juice or fruits or sanjeevni kanji. So something like this you can have, and over a period of time, you can see how to do without this. And prepare your body. If those of you who are finding it difficult to fast, what you can do is you prepare your body by eating the right kinds of foods and by starting doing some yogic sadhana. If you're not at all practicing doing some yoga, then see if you can bring in some yogic practice into your life, like shambhavi or hatha yoga. If you do something regularly for at least half an hour to 45 minutes, it will make a big difference. And also see if you can prepare your body by eating the right kinds of foods. So right now we may not be able to go into that in detail, but just broadly, if you want to speak about it, eating the right kinds of foods, in the sense foods which are supportive for your overall well-being. So eating a lot of raw foods which are which are in its live condition, so eating a lot of raw foods like fruits, salads, and avoiding negative pranic substances like stimulants like tea, coffee, or onion, garlic, chilies. So if you eat the right kinds of foods, it will help to prepare your system. If you are on a lot of caffeine, like if you are having a lot of tea, coffee, you will see fasting will become difficult or torture for you, because it actually interferes with the storage of energy in the system. If you are having a lot of nervous stimulants, it affects the storage of energy in the in the nervous system, and how the system stores energy, it gets affected. And normally a very healthy adult can very easily go without food, and whenever the body recognizes that the food intake is not happened, it releases its quota of energy, and then after some time you'll feel fine. But if you're having a lot of stimulants, then you'll see this will interfere with the natural process of release of energy, and fasting can be difficult for you. So it will be good if you can prepare your body by eating the right kinds of foods. We also have a session on food. It's called Aahar, where we look at this in detail, where what kind of food to eat, which is supportive for your system, and what kinds of how to approach food. So for those of you who are more interested in that, you can, I think Anna can share that link.
Oh,
So we have an upcoming session in Jan 4th. We'll be doing that. So we can look into it. But at least get started by eating a lot of raw food, and by doing some yogic practices. It will be a big support in terms of fasting. And some of you had questions about fasting. Like some of you mentioned that I got one question saying that I know that fasting is good, but I am underweight. So not eating, will it further worsen my condition? So someone also asked whether fasting, they don't feel, they feel hungry after doing the practices. So is it a good idea to stop doing the practices so that they don't feel hungry on Ekadasi? So to answer that, first of all, in terms of practices, you should definitely continue doing the practices on Ekadashi, and you will see it will be a big support for you in terms of keeping up the fast. If you do the practices, it will be very easy for you. So it's not the time for you to stop doing the practices. You should still continue doing the practices, and whether or not you it affects your hunger, but still you continue doing the practices. And in terms of underweight question, whether it's still okay to do the fasting. Yes, you still do it, because fasting is not just about, it's just not by having one benefit. It has multiple benefits across the board. And if the problem is that you're being underweight, then doing some yogic kriyas, for example, like Shambhavi or Shakti Chalana Kriya, it can help regulate your metabolism, so that if you're underweight, you can tend to put on weight if you start practicing regularly. And if you're overweight, you will tend to lose weight, and it helps to balance the metabolism in the system. So doing some yogic kriyas will help. And by also eating certain kinds of foods, like for example, which are high in fat content, for example, groundnuts, you can have more groundnuts. You can even have ghee, so on an empty stomach, or you can have honey mixed with cold water. That will also help in putting on weight. So you can have food, also chew the food thoroughly, and eat a variety of food. Especially when you're eating vegetarian, it's important that you choose a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and grains and cereals, so that your nutrition requirement is taken care of. So if you're eating well, and if you're eating sufficiently, and eating uh, a variety of foods, you will see that your nutrition requirement can be taken care of. So irrespective of whether you are underweight or overweight, it's still a good time to for you to attempt Ekadasi fasting. So that should be also taken care of. Someone was asking about two meals that they find it difficult, and they develop acidity problems if they're just having two meals. So in the yogic system, we always it's always mentioned, it's always suggested that if you are above 30 years of age, switching to two meals a day with sufficient gap between two meals, at least 8 to 10 hours gap between two meals, is ideal. So in the ashram, for example, you'll see the first meal is taken at 10 o'clock or 10:45 in the morning, brunch,
big
and
rush for it. I will
yeah,
run.
yeah, and then the next second meal is at 7 or 7:45 in the evening, dinner. And in between, if they want, they usually have something light, like a fruit or a soup or a juice, something which is something which is light on the stomach. So that can be taken in the afternoon. So that's the best way to go about it. If you can switch to two meals. For those who are under 30 years of age, you can still have three meals: your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Have at least 5 to 6 hours of gap between meals if you're having three meals. But otherwise, ideally, once you cross 30, it's always best to switch to two meals. And if you're having these acidity problems, it could indicate some It could be, because maybe because of certain ailments in your system or whatever else. If you're having acidity problems, then you can try to see if you can have one meal which is raw. For example, if you're having breakfast, you can go on a completely raw breakfast, then have lunch and then dinner with sufficient quantity of raw food before you begin both your meals. So that could also help, instead of having three cooked meals, you can go one meal on a raw diet and see that if that helps you. And in between, if you really need something, you can have something like juice, like ashgard juice or fruits. So that's much better than munching on crackers or whatever else, chips or fried stuff, which normally people reach out to when they feel hungry. So preparing your body sufficiently and by doing the practices, you will see that it can also help you in choosing the right kinds of foods, because how you are feeling has a direct link in terms of what you're eating, and vice versa also. So you will see that on a certain day, if you are very stressed or you have a lot of work pressure or you're feeling down, on that day you'll crave to have something.
Sweets.
Yeah, you'll want to have something spicy, or you'll want to have something like which is junk. And the more down you feel, you'll see that you'll start binging on food to kind of at least give you that temporary sense of happiness, or that fulfillment. At least temporarily you'll want to overcome that by eating food. So you'll want to binge on burgers or pizzas or whatever else you can lay your hands on, which may not be the best thing for you to have on a regular basis, but you're just not able to control that, because the way you're feeling is, you just want something to overcome it. And vice versa also, you will see, this is what we say look at in the yogic system. But by changing the way you eat and by eating the right kinds of foods, you can also change the way you feel. So it's like, related. So if you start doing some yogic practices which will help you stabilize your body, mind, take charge of your emotions, and at least see if you can manage your mind and body a little better, you will see that normally these cravings which most people have will tend to disappear, and you'll start eating right. And that will have an effect as well, because once you start eating the right kinds of foods and eating with reverence, you will see that it has a tremendous effect on the way you feel, and in every activity you do, it will make a big difference. And food is such an important part that we just cannot I just cannot mention that what changes can happen just if you learn to eat right. Because uh, most of the ailments which people are facing today are only because of the improper kind of foods which they are eating. And there have been countless cases which people are experiencing, where just by changing the kind of foods they are eating, whether it's naturopathy or other things, there are so many things which are going on nowadays. If you just browse, where people are just walking away from their illnesses just by eating the right kinds of foods, because food is one of the most important things which has gone wrong for most of us. And that is the reason for a large majority of all the ailments which are commonly plaguing people today, like diabetes or migraine or asthma or blood pressure. So food is very, very important. If you just take care of this part, you will see that most of these chronic ailments can simply disappear. And if you just support that by doing the right kind of yogic practices, you will see that your visits to the doctor or pharmacy or whatever else, you see it'll definitely reduce. And you would see a new sense of vigor and energy, rise in energy levels as well. So please see if you can take care of that. So ekadasi is a good time to give your body a break and observe how your system is behaving. And it has a spiritual element to it as well, as we looked at. So I would encourage all of you to fast. And tomorrow being ekadasi, so see if you can attempt this and share with us how it went for you. Okay, that would be nice to see if all of you are inspired and start fasting. Once you do this and you're able to do this even once, you will see that you will not want to stop it. Then every Ekadasi, you look forward to it. That's what we see on our groups. We have a support group where we remind people about Ekadashi, and a few days before we remind them, and one day before we send them multiple reminders so that they don't forget. And post Ekadashi, they share about their experiences, and we post it on the group. So if you wish to make use of this support group as well, we'll share the link with you. It's also there on the Yogi Ray Instagram page. If you visit our Instagram page, there'll be a link to join our WhatsApp group. So that will also be a support for you. Along with Ekadasi, we share other updates like our programs and Sadhguru's articles and other initiatives for well-being. So you can also stay in touch. Any other
So
questions?
there are, yeah, there are a few questions actually. So Sanjeev Anna is asking, what about people who are on medicine and require food before taking the medication?
What is that?
So what about people who are on some kind of medication and they require to take it after taking their food? So
Yeah, so that's what basically, if you are on medication, then it's better you consult with your physician, because if you are on certain medication which you cannot do without, and it cannot be taken on an empty stomach condition, then it's definitely not advisable, to take it on an empty stomach condition. And if you skip the medicine, it has some other effects. So it's best you consult with your physician. But generally, another option could be, to have fruits and then have the medicine. So that could be another option. So yes, definitely, if you are taking medicine, and if it's something which is critical, please consult with your physician before taking any steps like this. And if they agree, then you could have fruits instead, or something lighter which is easy to digest, and then have your medicine. So that's something which is possible.
one Akka is asking, what about people who have a lot of medical issues like PCOD, overweight, sciatica, I think it's pronounced like that, and they are aged below 30.
Yeah.
Shall they consume meals 2 times or how?
If you're below 30, you can have 3 meals. If you are above 30, then yes, 2 meals a day is recommended. Even if you're having ailments, it's still good if you can have 2 meals a day with sufficient gap. It has many benefits. You will see that the cancerous cells in the system, they can be controlled, they can be kept under check if you have just 2 meals a day. One of the main things which happens is, if you have yeah, this I think there's a video on this where Sadhguru spoke about the science behind this, that how cancerous cells actually require more than 40 times the energy of a normal cell. And if you continuously keep on eating few meals every few hours, if you keep on eating meals, you'll see they'll have enough energy to survive. But if you just have 2 meals and sufficient gap, you will see that most of these cancerous cells will die, and it won't multiply beyond a certain point of time. So it can keep the cancerous cells under check. And as of now, you must be knowing that cancer has become like kind of an epidemic, where even youngsters, they are falling prey to this. So improper lifestyle and improper foods and food choices, this is making a big difference. So yes, so it's, even if you have ailments, and if you can manage to gradually move towards it, you can start attempting to have 2 meals. If you're finding it difficult, I would suggest that you go on a raw meal. For example, you can have breakfast completely raw, and then have lunch and dinner with sufficient quantity of raw foods. So that could be more supportive for you, rather than having pre-cooked meals.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Sugandha is asking, she's from North India and it's too cold. So if she eats fruits and sprouts, she gets cough and cold. So what else can she eat?
Uh, see, uh, so that's again, it's not that by eating fruits and sprouts you'll anybody will catch cold. So that could be a condition specific to her, that she's getting cold related. She has these. She's more susceptible to catching cold. So usually for people who are more susceptible to catching cold, and they have these respiratory issues, or similar, we usually advise to do certain yogic practices which will be very helpful. For example, we have this practice called as Jalaneti, which is a technique to cleanse the nasal passages using salt water. So this is very beneficial for those who are regularly having cold issues or nasal blocks and migraine, asthma, wheezing, allergies, pneumonia, bronchitis, epilepsy, hay fever, rhinitis. So if or insomnia or sleeplessness or even diabetes. So if you have any of these ailments, and especially if you have ailments related to the ENT, and which is ears, nose, and throat, and anything related to this the nasal passages, you will find that doing this practice is a great support because it removes the excess mucus from the passages, and it helps to alleviate these issues. So especially doing one of these practices along with some hatha yoga practice, like for example if you have learned Surya Kriya or Surya Shakti or Surya Namaskar or Angamardana or Yogasana, something which your some hatha yoga practice which you are doing, and along with Jalaneti and eating the right kinds of foods, especially if you are facing cold and other issues, then avoiding or minimizing dairy products is recommended, because with dairy products it increases the level of mucus secretion and you'll find that it can aggravate. So reducing the dairy products or minimizing them, it will be helpful, and also learning certain yogic practices can be very helpful. So we'll be also doing a Jalaneti program on this December 25th in Bangalore. For those of you who are in Bangalore, and especially in Bangalore, we have I noticed this is that maybe because of the atmosphere, a lot of people they they tend to have these respiratory issues, especially like asthma, allergies, migraine, sinusitis, cold, cough. So asthma, these kind of issues are very common, especially in this city, because of the climate or whatever the particles in the air or the pollen or whatever. So a lot of people have these ailments, not just in Bangalore but other cities as well. But especially in Bangalore, a lot of them are having these respiratory related issues. So if you have been struggling with that, you will see allopathy doesn't have any cure. They might, just give you some nasal drops, which
Sprays.
can, yeah, nasal sprays, which can temporarily help you with the problem, but it will never, help in eradicating the problem. So, and even if you're having a nasal deviation or septal deviation, you should try out Jalaneti because this doesn't have any side effects. It's an ancient yogic process with tremendous benefits. So we have seen a lot of people who are having these ailments, and we have got many sharing where people have said that in a few weeks of practicing Jalaneti, they were able to come out of it, whether it's the sinus problems or their respiratory issues, or they saw a big relief in terms of how they're able to breathe. And breathing freely is very, very important. If your breathing is not happening properly, if it's restricted, if you are unable to breathe properly because of a blocked nose, or you know um, because of a struggle, because if you're struggling to breathe, you will see your whole system will not be efficient. It's very important to breathe properly, and your lungs should be free, and you should be able to breathe freely. So if this is not happening, it can lead to various issues, health issues. So breathing freely is very important. So clearing your nasal passages so that air can flow in easily and you can breathe freely is a very important preparatory step before you take any further steps. So if you haven't tried before, it's good if you can attempt Jalaneti and see if it helps you. And along with that, if you just do some more practices like hatha yoga and eating the right kinds of foods, it will make a big difference. So you can try that and see if you haven't done that already. And as far as that question with the lady is concerned, so she can see if she can do these practices, and she can eat, still continue to eat fruits. It may be that some fruits she's catching tending to catch cold, she can try to see if some other fruits she can manage. And she can always have groundnuts, different salads, or sanjeevani, which is a porridge, which is a mixture of different grains. So all this can make up at least 50% of one's diet actually.
then there is some general queries like how
General.
does it, like how does Isha help in removing black magic?
Okay. That I think you can you can share some of the videos.
Yeah, yeah, it's there. Sadhguru has made some videos on
You can send them separately. There are some
it. Yeah,
videos.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions related to fasting?
Yeah, the fasting. No, there is not much like no.
Okay,
No, there
there
is.
was just hold on.
Yeah.
Mm, okay, vegetarian foods. How do I increase weight with vegetarian foods that we already looked at?
There is one question.
Mm.
Guy is asking, what about milk? Can we replace it with soya milk because of allergies?
Uh, yeah, milk is definitely something which you should try to avoid because for most adults over 3 years of age, milk is indigestible and it is mucus forming. It's very difficult to digest milk actually. So it stays in the system for a longer period of time, because of which you will see that whatever stays in the system for a longer period of time, it affects the way you feel and are. And Sadhguru was mentioning this that a lot of people, especially in the West, they are facing a lot of psychological issues, problems in terms of psychological issues and imbalances. That's one of the reasons is mainly because they are consuming a lot of dairy products and meat, which stay in the system for a longer period of time, and the colon is never clean. So keeping the colon clean is very important. If you have to think clearly and if you have to feel good, it's important to keep your colon clean. So minimizing milk products, especially milk, if you can avoid that, you can yes, you can replace it. There are alternatives nowadays. There's a big movement in terms of veganism, where people are coming up with different alternatives to milk. It's possible to make most of the products which are usually made of milk without milk as well. For example, curd or the sweets or
So curd
whatever.
is also not good. Like that is also better to avoid.
So basically, yes, basically it's made of milk itself, right? So usually in terms of milk products, if at all, if you have to have milk products, it's always better to have ghee and buttermilk, because buttermilk changes the composition of the milk and that's easier to digest. So if you've seen in the ashram, usually buttermilk is served, but curd and curd you'll find it's very rare, maybe once in a while only. But it's not something which is recommended as a staple diet, which you should have on a regular basis. Ghee is also something which is okay, because ghee also has a cleansing property. It lubricates your uh, alimentary canal and creates a protective coating, so it also protects you before, if you are having spicy food and all, it creates a certain coating and protects system. So before you have your meals, if you want to take a spoonful of ghee or so, that's also fine. But other milk products like curd and raw milk and other milk products, it's always better to minimize. If you cannot avoid, it's better to minimize and not make it like a staple diet where you're having it regularly. It's always better to do that. If you are attending some programs in Isha like Samyama, which is an advanced program, you'll see that for 40 days they'll ask you to go without milk products completely. You must remember that, right?
Yes, yes. I used to see chocolates.
Because yeah, because what happens is they want to ensure that whatever you're eating is definitely something which is not causing lethargy in the system. So to prepare your body sufficiently for the program, because it's a very intense program, they'll ask you to go without milk and milk products for 40 days, so that at least your system is prepared, and you'll see what a big difference it makes in terms of your energy levels. So yes, it's always best to minimize or avoid, and they can always have coconut milk, which is more natural, or there are other types of milk which is available. You can um, you can also have ragi kanji. Ragi has much more calcium than milk, and it is so healthy for the body as well. So you can have ragi kanji, you can have ragi flour and make different products of ragi, or you can have horse gram, which is also called as kolu. So green leafy products also have a lot of calcium. So it's not that you cannot do without milk. It's just that you need to eat sufficiently and variety of food, which can also cover this actually.
Take one last question
Hmm.
from Shantipuriyaka. She's saying, "Is it safe to have raw food?" As she heard a nutritionist saying to avoid raw food.
See, I don't know what nutritionist is mentioning about this actually, because one thing with nutritionists and dietitians is also that they keep changing their advice every few years as the research progresses. You know, some new research comes and they say, okay, according to this research, now it's been proven that this is not good or this is thing. But in the yogic system, it's not based on research, it's based on observation of one's own system. So whatever we are mentioning, it is something which you can also very easily know. You need not go to a doctor or a dietitian or a nutrition to find out. If you just observe your own system, you will very easily know what is good for the system or not. So raw foods is definitely good for the system
Even
because
beetroot, she's asking, even beetroot is
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Any see raw food, what happens is when you eat food in its raw condition, it has all the necessary enzymes which are needed to help in digestion. When you cook food, most of the enzymes which are needed for digestion, they get destroyed in the cooking process. So when you're eating cooked food, you will see that the body has to reconstitute most of these enzymes which are lost in the cooking process. So that is why it's always suggested that you include at least a certain quantity of raw food in your diet. At least 50% is recommended. If you eat 50% raw food where it's food in its uncooked condition, for example fruits or salads, like for example you can make beetroot salad, you can make carrot salad, you can make cucumber salad, or pumpkin salad. There are so many things you can make out of raw vegetables. You can have fruits, you can have sprouts, you can have groundnuts, you can have dry fruits. So if you have food sufficiently in its raw condition, you will see that it will sustain your body in a very different way. You will see that your energy levels will increase, your sleep quota will decrease, and you will feel much more alive and healthy. And a lot of people are just have walked out of their ailments just by changing this one thing in their diet of eating at least 50% raw. If you are concerned about the chemicals or bacteria and other things, one thing is you should, before eating raw food, you can clean it. You can soak it in salt water for a few minutes, then remove it and wash it in cold water and then consume it. That helps in removing external you know um, impurities or chemicals which may have gotten into the food, especially when you're eating raw. So you can do that, but it's definitely suggested that you have raw food.
Okay, Anna. So whey protein is also a dairy product. One Anna is asking. I think he's going to gym. So even I used to take whey protein. So is it?
I'm not sure about that, what they add in the ingredients. You can check, because most of these protein shakes and all which are, um, coming off the shelves, they usually add some dairy powder and added sugar and many other things. And it's always better not to have not to have protein separately like this, because what happens is excess protein can also lead to cancer, and the body needs only a certain amount of protein, which you can very easily get if you're eating sufficient quantity of raw food, like as I was saying, ground nuts and horse gram, green leafy vegetables, ragi. If you eat all these things if you eat food in its raw condition and sufficient variety, you will see that your protein content can very easily be taken care of. So it's not necessary to have supplements like whey protein and other things, which until unless you're looking at a certain building a certain kind of body, and you cannot do without that. But otherwise, for most people, this is definitely not recommended or needed to have separate protein supplements or anything like that. Because if you look at any product nowadays, you just see the product. It's very difficult to come across any product which doesn't have added sugar or dairy or other preservatives or chemicals. So it's become almost next to impossible to go to a supermarket and find something which is not having something or the other which is not good for the system. So that's one of the reasons. This is also one of the reasons why people losing their head, because once they understand that things are not in their control, then again that causes a lot of disturbance, because they're worried about not eating right and eating the wrong kinds of foods. So it also becomes very important in the way you consume food. So this is what we look at our session when we do this Aahar program. So we see a lot of participants coming where some of them are aware about what kinds of foods to eat, but it becomes excessive in terms of their what kind of foods to eat, and it becomes like another kind of extreme situation where they get really concerned about what they're eating. Excessive concern is also not good. So it's more important to eat consciously and joyously rather than eating correctly. So to learn to eat with gratitude and to understand that some other life is giving up its own life to make your life. If this understanding comes, you will see that the way you consume food and the way it behaves within you will change dramatically.
Thank you. So, what else, Anna? I think, shall we end it? I'm coming to Bangalore. I just want to say it. Yeah, to do the Jalaneti program that Mukul Anna was talking about earlier. Because I myself have for a long time I've been suffering from this sneezing. Like if a little bit of dust or pollen goes, and I have to use these sprays. And every time I go to the doctor, for some time it goes and then again it comes back. So I thought I will also try this Jalaneti program this time. So I think I'll link it in the description.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
It's on
So
which date? It's on which date, Anna?
it's on December 25th. So we'll be doing two programs. We'll be doing a Jalaneti program where we'll be teaching Jalaneti and Pranayam. And following this program, we'll be also having a Bhuta Shuddhi program. So Bhuta Shuddhi is one of the uh, techniques which can help to cleanse all the five elements in the system. So as you know, everything is comprised of these five elements. And if you take charge of these five elements, you will see that it can lead to complete mastery over the system. So it's a very effective and potent practice, yogic practice, where even people who are not able to do things physically, for example, right now, if you have parents or grandparents who are physically not in a position to do yoga, maybe they are not able to bend, or hatha yoga is out of the question for them. Even for them, this is one particular process where this can be done sitting on a chair as well, and they can still make use of this, because every yogic practice which you do, any basic yogic practice if you do, the basis of every yogic practice is, it's based on purifying or cleansing these elements. So bhuta shuddhi is one of the fundamental processes in any yogic practice. So this is a direct process to cleanse the five elements. So even if they are not able to do any physical practice, they can learn this and make use of this, and it can be very effective uh, as a tool to take care of one's health and overall well-being. So both these programs will be doing on 25th. So those of you are in Bangalore, you can do, if you wish to learn, you can do that. Or even in other cities also, these programs are being conducted by trained Hatha Yoga teachers. So you can make use of that. And we also have a few other upcoming programs for those of you in Bangalore. We have a Shrishti program coming up from December 27th to 29th. This is only for the kids. So if your kids are between 8 to 15 years of age, this is a residential camp where they'll be exposed to nature, yoga, food, and play. So we were talking about food. So all these things which we are looking at, we'll be also exploring in the program, and we'll be serving that kind of food. And along with nature walks, treks, and yogic practices which they will learn, and above all in an atmosphere of play where they have fun. So it'll be a residential camp where they stay with us for 3 days. So I'm looking forward to it. Very excited about that.
Hope I'll
And
get a few videos.
yeah, you're coming on the first day.
Yeah, on the first day.
Yes, so 27th to 29th is the program, and we have another program from Jan 10 to 12th, which is again a Srishti program, but it's open for the adults as well. So if parents wish to come along with their kids, or just adults want to come, and then this program is a possibility. This also in Bangalore. And we have an Aahar program in Jan. We scheduled it on Jan 4th. So this is where we'll be looking. This is an online session where you can join from across the world and look at food in more depth and detail. You can get all your food queries answered as well. So these are some of the programs which we have. And if you have been following us on the Yogi Ray page, the Instagram handle yogiray.me, you can share it in the video as well. So you'll see, you'll continue to hear from us. Or we'll also share the WhatsApp group link for those of you who wish to stay in touch with us, get Ekadasi reminders and other updates. We can update you on the WhatsApp group. Okay.
Okay, Anna. So,
So thank you so much.
okay, Anna. Thank you.
And I tomorrow, if you're fasting tomorrow, it would be really nice if you can send your sharing after you break your fast, that how it was for you, this whole experience. You can either send it to me or Vaishak so that we can, see how many of you have gotten inspired and started fasting. So if you can send it to us, it'll be great to hear from all of you.
On
That
Instagram, on your Instagram handle.
yeah. So they
You
can
are on
send.
Facebook also, right? The same handle, right? Yogi Reformer.
Yeah. I'm there on Instagram and Facebook. They can share it with you also. So whatever is comfortable for them, they can do that.
A picture
Uh,
would be nice of what they're breaking the fast with.
yeah, you can do that. You can send a picture as well and your experience. That will also inspire a lot of others also to start fasting if they haven't already. So wish you the best.
Okay.
Hope to hear from you, all of you, about your fasting experience. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Anna.
Okay. Thank you, Anna.
Okay,
Thank you
Anna.
so much.